Usually there'll be a strategy, there'll be a business driver, or there'll be a pain point. There'll be something somewhere lurking around why they want to manage data. Maybe they are developing a new strategy. Maybe they have a regulatory responsibility. Maybe they have been fined. Maybe they don't want to be fined. Or maybe the business are already complaining about data. They are taking too long to find the right data. For example, when they find the right data, it doesn't make sense. They have missing customer data. Their product is not uniquely identified and stuff like that. So they're making the wrong decision. Everything then centers firstly around the data criticality, right? What data is critical? Which one is the most important? Which one has regulatory, reputational, or financial risk? Or which ones form a part of a key report? Which data is used to generate another data that is then important or is reported to a regulator, for example? Yeah. Once you identify what is critical, you need to understand everything around that data so you can take advantage of it. That is where metadata comes in, right? The data about data. You need to collect the metadata, and that is where you then manage it going forward. Yeah. So this morning I'm going to start with a metadata standard, right? So just trying to highlight, what is a metadata standard? Standard is how to do, right? How to do. So how should we do metadata? How should metadata look like for us to be able to trust it? You've all met me before. My name is still Dr. Adetokunbo Ajibola. I am the data evangelist. Maybe when most of you last spoke to me, I was Mr. Ade, but I'm now Dr. Ade. So make sure you update your business glossary and your metadata about me is correct. Yeah. So first things first, bro, a metadata is critical, right? It is used to deliver business capabilities. That means that you need to understand first what is the business capability that you are trying to do, right? Are you trying to acquire new customers, develop better products? Are you trying to provide data to regulator? They will give you the list of fields that they want to be reported on. That is what your critical data is in that instance. You then need to collect metadata about it. Yeah. Your metadata needs to include descriptive details, right? About the relationship of the data, how it relates to other data, and some other stuff around it, right? You already know that there are two types of metadata. Yeah, there's the business metadata that provides the business context, and then there is the technical metadata that provides the technical details. The lineage, the transformation rules, any manipulation that data goes through. For example, the database, the schema, the columns, they are all technical metadata. The business metadata will go in the business glossary. The technical metadata will go in the data dictionary. I said, yes, they will go into those two places. But don't be surprised that when you can find a company where everything is documented in one place. It doesn't matter where you document it. What is important is to document them, yeah, and make sure that you have linked them together, yeah. So that's the most important. So don't say, oh, so you go to a company, they say they are referring to business glossary as a data glossary, for example, or a data asset register. It doesn't matter. Just document it and make sure that it makes sense, right? Metadata is important for us to be able to, understand what we are managing, right? To acquire knowledge about the data, to manage risk. And when I say to manage risk, of course, is to manage the reputational, regulatory, or financial risk. So you can then make better decisions in the organizations. So this is what you should be saying that you have done for the companies where you have worked. What does good metadata then looks like? For you to know what it looks like or what it should look like, you need to have what is called the principles. You need to have some principles. So that is why I always say that the answer is not what I'm always after. I'm always after you understanding the principles, right? What is driving it? The things that you need to have in place. The first thing is, you need to manage your data, metadata centrally, right? That is why you need to have a business glossary, right? So that everybody can have access to that data in a central place and should be available to everybody, even if your company is a global company. Yeah. There should be clear accountability for your metadata. You need to set the ownership. Yeah, you need to set the ownership. And when I say set the ownership here, it's not just data owner. It involves the data owners, the data stewards, the technical owner, and the custodians. You need to set those ownership. Now, in practicality, you don't have to have data owner and steward. I can tell you from experience that you need the stewards more than you need the data owners. The data owners are there for strategic direction, to provide funding. Yeah. But you can have senior management in your organizations, like a sponsor, for example. Usually, most times you have the CFO, the chief financial officer, or the CRO, the chief risk officer, who will be sponsors of these initiatives. They can act, they can do the role of what you need the owners for, but you need the stewards. But hear me clearly, to pass the CDMP exam, you must assume that you need both the owner and the stewards, right? But in practicality, you get into a company and you're struggling to find data owners. Don't overflog it. Just find stewards, people who are in the business, who are subject matter experts, right? They're the ones that will help you to define what that data needs to look like, the integrity, the accuracy, the security that's required around it, whether it needs to be timely. Remember your 6 dimensions. They are the ones that you need to do those activities. You should have semantic discovery. And what this means is you should capture and organize your metadata to enable things like lineage. Yeah, that's why you need to make sure that your metadata, business and technical, they are aligned. You can click on the CD, for example, you can see all the metadata about it, and then you can click on it again and then see the lineage, right? Without a semantic discovery, you'll be able to do that. That's why you need a data model. Yeah. Remember, your data model shows you how your data links together. To be able to click and then be able to do the lineage. Reusability. Yeah. You should create, store, and use your metadata consistently across the processes, all your business units, and all your systems. You shouldn't have metadata for finance or for sales, product development separately. It should be in one central repository and everybody should be able to use it. Those are the 4 principles that is very important for you to do metadata properly, right? So you may want to flip this over and describe it as some of the challenges that the company had before you joined, rather than just saying, I went in there, identified CDs, and then I documented metadata. Paint some scenarios, paint real problems that you solved, right? What was happening there? There was no clear accountability. There was no central repository. They were not able to, do semantic discovery on their data. There was no lineage. Yeah, so you came in and then you did all those things. They were not reusing the data that they had. Every time they had to make a decision, every department has to go out and collect their own metadata and they try and make it trusted, make it usability once, set it up once and for all. Yeah. So then the standards then for the business metadata then looks like this. Is your terms, right? Remember that the standards are how to do. Yeah, how to do. So how to do business metadata is first things first. You must document your business terms, right? You must have clear business justification why that data is needed, right? It should be reused consistently and it should be regularly reviewed because definitions for business terms can change. Yeah, definitions can change. Something can happen in the business, the way they use data, and then you might need to change it. You should have business rules, right? Have business rules in place, which you should be able to link to your business terms. And these business rules should follow your data quality standards. Now, what I mean by following your data quality standards there means they should follow your 6 dimensions that you have agreed. Customer ID, for example, it needs to be complete. It cannot be missing. So you should make sure that you have rules for this. Customer ID, for example, should be unique. So you should have rules for this. Customer ID, for example, must be consistent. You can't have the same customer having different IDs across your systems, right? Etc., etc. That's what I mean by having business rules in place. You should have KPIs and metrics. Yeah. KPIs are metrics that you're going to use to measure how this metadata is performing, right? So you can have KPIs like, how many owners, how many CDs have data owners, for example, right? Which ones don't have calculation rules. So maybe they are data that is calculated from another data. Yeah. And you should be able to measure and quantify these KPIs and metrics. You should be reporting on them. How many owners, how many stewards, how many CDs, how many definitions, how many CDs, how many data quality issues are assigned to a data owner, for example. These are KPIs and metrics that you should be measuring. Make sure that you have your business processes, right, that use this metadata and link them to your master source. Yeah. So for example, customer is in system A, for example. Document the metadata and make sure that the business processes that use that data is also documented. Because when there's a problem with the data, if you don't know the systems that use it or the processes that use it, then it will be difficult, yeah, to be able to engage, the right people in the business to help you. So bear in mind these 4 things, yeah. On the other side, your technical metadata, you should have your logical data models documented. You already know that it's not your job to create data models, but make sure that they are in place, right? And they are linked to your business metadata. Yeah, make sure that you are linked to it. Physical data dictionaries, again, the table and the field level documentation must have this in place so that it's available, so that you know in which table, in which field, in which column that the CD that you are gathering metadata about resides in. Lineage is very important because remember, the ultimate goal is good quality data. And when there's a problem, if you want to, there'll be a problem. So make sure that, the technical team have documented the lineage. You should, of course, also have the business lineage documented, the domains, the processes, and the systems, right? You should include your source target mapping. So when I say source target mapping, for example, customer ID is collected. It goes into a one Excel. From that Excel, they then load into another system. From that system, it goes to another system, goes to another system before it ends up in the report that the customer gets. Make sure that that is documented. You should classify, this metadata, whether they are personal identifiable information, PIs. These are data that you can combine with another data and identify a natural human being. It must be treated specially. Or if it is sensitive data, also make sure that you have classified it properly and make sure that, again, that you have ownership. Yeah. Especially if you are doing cloud data management, maybe you are putting your data in the cloud, for example. The ownership must go with the data everywhere the data goes to. Because data has moved from one jurisdiction to the other, doesn't mean that you should have a different owner, one ownership. Make sure that you have this documented. And these are the things that you should be saying that you ensured were in place for you to manage your metadata properly. Not just go to an interview and say, oh yeah, I documented CDs and stuff like that. Paint scenarios, talk more detail about it. You need to have controls in place, right, for metadata management for so many reasons. Yeah. You can, so this is an example of a control here. I've called it KC001, which means key control 001. Critical information outputs documented. Yeah. So that's your control. So you're saying that for outputs, your data outputs that carry risk, your metadata is documented, including any report, all the data elements, the source applications, and data quality controls in place. So this key control, once you agree this with the business, you then document the metadata business perspective. And then, of course, you then get the technical team to do the technical side of it. Now, because you have this control in place, automatically it means that you must also identify your data quality dimensions. You got it? So you see how we are talking about metadata, but we are going deep into quality. That's the essence of everything. Another example of a key control, 002, critical data documented and signed off, right? Your metadata for critical data is very important for critical data. A lot of people ask me, especially the new course, they ask me, so if one data is critical, what about the ones that are not critical? What do we do about it? We don't do anything about it until they become critical. Yeah. They should be documented in your strategic repository, i.e. your business glossary. It could be in a tool, it's irrelevant. Maybe it's Colibra, maybe it's Purview, maybe it's Informatica, it's irrelevant. But you must make sure that it's in a repository and you have evidence of sign-off or approval for both your business and the technical metadata. Yeah. So as part of the work that you did in documenting CDs and then gathering metadata, you should also be talking about going through sign-off and approvals and stuff like that. I'll talk a bit more when we get to governance later on when I talk about policy and standards. You must make sure that you get approval or sign-off for these things. It's not just good enough to just document them. They must be in place. You must have sign-off and you must be using them. Yeah. Some of the next steps or the steps that you need to take to take for your starting and then implementing metadata management is first to review the current practices. So what is happening in the organization at the moment, right? Assess any existing metadata management process against the standards. So you set the standards, you have your key controls, assess it against it. That's what will give you the deltas. You see what I mean? So this is how you should really be describing in a bit more detail at interviews as to what you have done, rather than just showing yourself as somebody who just comes in and then it just helps to document things. I set the approach, I set the standards and the principles. I then perform a current state assessment on what we have in place. Then you should have a plan to develop a roadmap for how you're going to adopt the new standard that you have put in place now. Yeah, you set a control, for example, to say that you must document business metadata and technical metadata, and you must think about the data quality controls, and you must identify owners. Then you then do those things as the next thing. Then you must train and communicate what you have done, right? Educate teams on these new standards and the importance in data management, right? So this is where you're talking about you are involved in data literacy awareness. Yeah, train them on why it's important to have those standards in place and the role that they will play. I said that you're going to have to identify 4 roles. You need to let those people know what their roles and responsibilities are. This is where you also talk about, you created those responsibilities and then you engage them, you train them on what they're going to be doing. The tools, for example, if you have a tool, you need to train them. The KPIs, you need to let them know what the KPIs are because the KPI more or less is like you are checking how well they are doing their role. So they need to know about it and they need to agree to it. Then you start to monitor and improve what you are doing. Yeah. I'll talk more about monitoring, reviewing, and stuff like that a bit later on. But by and large, you should regularly review compliance, right? First, are they complying? Then secondly, what you have put in place, is it effective? Because it's possible for people to be compliant, but what you have put in place is not really effective. It might not be working. Yeah. So it's not a one-time exercise. You don't do it once and you say bye-bye.